Moto Guzzi doesn't care how anybody else does anything. Hey, Dylan from Throttle Company here, Columbus, Ohio, where we sell Royal Enfields, Moto Guzzis, and vintage motorcycles. Today, brand new Moto Guzzi, hence in front of the wall, our replication of the Red Gate at the factory where they make this in Mandello del Lario, Italy. All right, Moto Guzzi V85. It's a major update. 2025 is technically the model year for this. It's an adventure bike. It's 850 cc's. If you don't know about this bike, if you just happen to stumble upon this video because you watch other In the Loops by me or something like that, or Moto Guzzis in general, this is an awesome bike. It's been out for a few years now. Some people said it's a bike that saved Moto Guzzi. I don't know how much trouble they were in, but they sell a lot of them is the idea. And they're just an awesome kind of middleweight, vintage style adventure bike. And they got more vintage looking and just a better bike overall. 850 cc's, 1917 on the wheels, and those are tubeless, but spokes. And the new ones are silver. They look very vintage. I don't know if you know this, but Moto Guzzi is also owned by Piaggio. They also own Aprilia, so those are their motorcycles. Piaggio, Vespa, Aprilia, Moto Guzzi. Aprilia and Moto Guzzi share a lot of switch controls and a lot of styling things. So this is very similar, I think, with the wheels to the Touareg 660. So styling-wise, you're seeing a lot of that kind of update, modern, vintage, retro stuff happening, which is great. We have this, sometimes people think sideways, V-twin, that just gives a ton of character. Literally, it shakes back and forth with the pistons. It's just an awesome engine. There's a little bit more power. Hiding inside is variable valve timing this year, so that makes a ton more efficiency. They did it, I'm sure they did it for emissions. Emissions is really tough on an air-cooled bike, and so we get a little bit more power and we get a little bit more fuel efficiency. The shock on this one is very similar to the one in the previous years, except you have this external adjustment, which is super convenient. You can get bags for this. This one does not come with it. This is the Adventure Rosso. It's red. And it's beautiful, and I think it's the coolest looking vintage one. This is our demo. We do test rides. If you've never ridden a Moto Guzzi, come down, spend the day, and we'll ride a bunch of them. The windscreen is different this year. You can adjust it. I'm holding my gloves here, but you can adjust it with one hand kind of while you're riding. It's hard from this angle, but that's its highest position. That's its lowest position. You saw it. Major updates. What is great about this bike is they clearly listened to the complaints people had. There was a weird aerodynamic pocket happening here. We would hear this like whoop whoop buffeting noise, and this really cuts down on the wind noise. This piece they added on the travel version, which is sort of the highest spec version. It has a bunch of different other stuff on it, and the bags. It has little winglets here and a different windscreen to kind of address that. Let's see if I can turn it on and look at the eagle in the front. Ooh, look at that come on. All right, so that's their big thing, Moto Guzzi. We got one here too. The Eagle, we got the Eagle light. Full color dash up front. We got you're hearing a car go by, not necessarily my exhaust. When I rev it up there, it twists to the side. We're in sport mode. So you could change the modes on this one there. It's actually in the modes section here. So I can go through this button and change them. You can add heated grips. This one doesn't have it. The Travel does. And just a ton of cool little stuff. It tells you how much mile to empty, the gear indicator, the tack on there, the fuel. This one, we're not in the odometer mode, but we've had this for a little bit, and I've ridden it a ton. This is my kind of bike. If you're not an adventure bike person, you should look at them. There's a reason that they're the most popular segment right now. Comfortable all day. You can ride on the highway all day. You can hit some gravel roads if that's your thing. Add luggage. They're the do-it-all. They're the SUV of motorcycles, if you will. As I almost interact with an SUV there. This is an awesome bike. This is a major update from the last one. It just feels a lot smoother, a lot more powerful. The suspension is great. I love all everything just looks tidier and updated in a good way, in a tasteful way. It doesn't look like, you know, a spaceship or a insect or something like that. They really, Moto Guzzi and, you know, Italians are known for their sense of style, and Moto Guzzi, I love their style. I love that the tank comes out here and it just kind of mimics the cylinders there, and it just makes it look athletic, muscular. Feels great to ride. I love wide handlebars, and these are about as wide as a stock bike will get, and a nice, you know, suspension that has a lot of, what would you call that? Play or a lot of movement in the suspension, so it can take a big bump. Upside down forks, dual discs in the front. Really, it's more braking than you would ever need. The rear brakes are great. Shaft drive, that's something that I didn't mention yet, but Moto Guzzis are kind of known for that as well. So they have a dry clutch, air-cooled, this kind of sideways engine thing, 6 gears, and a drive shaft in the back. So that's great for your adventure bike. It really cuts down on your maintenance. One of our mechanics, Brandon, has the older version of this, and he's done multiple iron butts where you ride 1,000 miles in 24 hours. Ooh, avoid that trash bag. And the seat, stock seat that he's got on his, and no problem. It's got cruise control. It's a perfect bike for that. He's got heated grips on his, so even if it gets cold in the middle of the night, you can keep going. But it is that kind of all-day comfort, and you never think about your chain, right? So that's the idea behind the drive shaft. Just the maintenance is just a complete non-issue. It's like a drive shaft on a car. When's the last time you thought about that or did any preventative maintenance on it? Probably never. And so that's the idea with the Moto Guzzi, is they've been, you know, people question their reliability, which I think is crazy. You just don't know any history of Moto Guzzi. Is they've been focusing on reliability for a long, long time. One of the famous models that they're famous for, or that they're known for, is the California. And the way that that came about was they designed this model for the California Highway Patrol. And the idea was a bike that their officers could sit on all day, didn't have to kill their mechanics doing the maintenance on it, could sit in traffic, could sit in the California heat, and just do it all reliably. They're one of the first manufacturers to do away completely with the kickstart. They haven't had kickstart for a long time. And they have a bunch of innovations. They're just, here's Moto Guzzi in a nutshell. It's taken me a few years that we've been a dealer for them to really wrap my mind around how they do things. But Moto Guzzi doesn't care how anybody else does anything. That's them in a nutshell. You guys are putting chains on your bike, you don't like the drive shaft, we don't care. Our engines are sideways, we don't care. We do things the way we want to do them. And they build bikes the way they want to. And this V85 is interesting because they came out with the Stelvio, which is a 1,000cc adventure bike last year. And you thought, oh, okay, the V85 is going to be kind of forgotten. But then they come out with an update for the V85, variable valve timing, and all those other changes that I said, and you're thinking, is that really necessary? But when you ride it, you're going, okay, actually somebody at Moto Guzzi feels passionate about the V85, so they're not giving up on the V85, and it's awesome. This update is something that I didn't know I needed, but here we are, and I do think it was a good idea. I think they nailed it. Moto Guzzi, part of their Italian thing is handling. They will not build a bike that doesn't handle. You know, they build a lot of cruisers. I talked about that California model. That's a cruiser. Big bike meant to go on the highway. And it handles great. It handles amazing. The ground clearance is high. You can really lean into a turn. And you're like, what? Americans are not used to this type of cruiser. So their adventure bike handles fantastic. I mean, you think that this bike weighs around 500 pounds, a big bike, and it's adventure suspension and stuff, and you think, well, it probably, you know, just feels sloppy and vague in the turns, and it is anything but that. It feels fantastic. I have it in sport mode here, so to just get full advantage of the power for the video. This is where I shut up and I show you what it's like to get a little bit of speed and use the transmission. I'm in 5th there. We do have 6th. I'm going to head back down so I don't lug it. But plenty of power, plenty of highway speed. This is ridiculous because I say this about the Royal Enfields and they have 650s. People will say oh, can it even go on the highway? And people will say that sometimes about this 850. I mean, you're out of your mind if you think that about an 850. Oh, can it go on the highway? Does it have enough power? I never think about the size of this. I mean, it's a V85. That's what 85 means, 850. I never think, this just feels like a completely full-size big bike to me. I never think about the number. But I get it when you're shopping around or whatever, you're thinking, you know, what KTM and BMW, they make 1300s now. And I get it that you might think, oh, this one, you know, it's like half of that with an 800. So, but this bike has so much power. Sounds great. Character. There's my quota for the Moto Guzzi video. Every time you talk about a Moto Guzzi, you gotta say character a million times. But that's why you buy this bike. So I was gonna make a video, I haven't done it yet, but I've got an idea to make a video on why mechanics or why your mechanic loves the V85. This is an awesome bike to work on. You don't have to take the tank off. You don't have to even move the tank. I've probably only taken the tank off of V85 a few times. And it's not something you do very often to do the valves. So you don't have to take the tank off to do the valves. They're just right here under that cylinder. The variable valve timing, I've seen people on the Facebook worry that it changes the ease of maintenance. It doesn't do a damn thing. So the valves are exactly the same. They're screw type adjuster. You don't need shims. Any garage mechanic can do it. You just have to be able to get the rear wheel off the ground and rotate it to rotate the engine. And then you're adjusting valves. This is actually either a V85 or a V7 is the bike that I train new people on how to do the valves, because it just couldn't be easier understanding the engine, understanding what's happening, understanding what you're actually measuring when you're adjusting the valve clearance. This is that bike, and you do the maintenance on the drive shaft once every 18,000 miles. You just change the oil. It's just gear oil. The same with your transmission, gear oil. They don't recommend it specifically, but because it's a dry clutch that never touches the oil, you could put car engine oil in your engine. You can't do that on a regular motorcycle because most are wet clutches, and that would be really bad. There are friction modifiers on a regular car engine oil, and you don't want that with a wet clutch. You don't want it. But dry clutch doesn't care because it doesn't touch the oil. So you could do that if you wanted to, but if you're into the maintenance, if you are kind of bored by the appliance-ness, I don't know if that's a word, but how every other kind of adventure bike just looks boring, looks the same, feels soulless and like an appliance thing, then this bike is something you really should look at. If you're interested in doing miles, this is your kind of, if you have multiple bikes, this is your kind of always starts, always reliable, just hop on, go, comfortable. You don't have to think about it. I don't know what I was doing with the gears. I was in 3rd. And it's just your easy, comfortable, always good, always ready to go bike. And it looks awesome. To me, the looks of it, let me get to neutral there. This is kind of a Moto Guzzi quirk. I have the clutch halfway out. Sometimes that helps, sometimes that doesn't. There we go. And sometimes so I should have done that before I came to a full stop. Anyway, sometimes it feels to me like it looks like a kind of vintage Dakar bike. Moto Guzzi has actually done some Dakar stuff, and the V85 the original yellow was inspired by this Dakar bike. Maybe I'll put a photo of it up there. But see if you agree that kind of 80s, 90s racing stripes, the silver wheels, even though we have tubeless now. It does to me, kind of this setup here is similar to a rally tower and stuff. So it does seem like that kind of vintage Dakar bike. I didn't mention all this stuff, but we've got cruise control. We can navigate through here and change some of the stuff, see a bunch of our stuff. So there you go, there's your odometer, 300 miles only on this one. Hazards here, light modes there. We used to have a mode button here if you're familiar with that, so they've changed that. It's in the dash setup now. The dash is actually fantastic. Nice big bright screen, works great. Shows you all the information you need. You have a USB here, so a lot of people do like a navigation or something. You could actually do navigation from the dash. Let me get back on it. You could actually do navigation from the dash with this Mia app that they have. So it's the Moto Guzzi's version of the app, and you connect to it and it shows up on the screen and stuff. I've done it, and it's cool. It's cool to not have to have another device, but a lot of people will add something and they'll have this, and there's another one under the seat so you can have heated gear or a heated seat and stuff like that. You can see it. I think you can see that in the bars rocking back and forth. That's the character of the engine. I'm a mechanic. I love a bike like this. I love to be able to hear the things moving and feel all the parts that they're all doing their job in this just beautiful symphony that is a Moto Guzzi engine. The V-shaped, the 90-degree V-twin. Just a beautiful bike. Thank you for watching the video. This has been In the Loop. I've been Dylan. Auto Company, Columbus, Ohio. I'll see you next time.